for the small. Lay a big hit and pass or kick the ball. This game is for us all. From Seattle down toward the Keys, this game is you, this game is me. Cats, dogs, and steer, even a tree. This game is America, so sing it loud with me. College football forever. College football forever. Downtown LA, Starkville City. 1 week you're up next, take a dip. Run the rock or let it rip. This game is America. All say, can you sing it with me?
We just stepped on her face with a hot-tail Lugan broke her nose. Whoa, Nelly!
College football forever. College football forever. College football forever. College football forever.
College football is a year-round discussion with these two. Here's JC and Morgan. Mike Morgan of ESPN and JC Shurburtt of 24/7 Sports have you covered. Beginning right now.
All right. Looks like Mike is frozen. JC Shurburtt here, JC and Morgan live with you. We're going to have Tom Luginbill on here in a little bit. That's a great frozen picture of Mike, though, with a gun in the background. I think it's pretty awesome. We're going to talk a little movies with Tom Luginbill, like we always do. The Fiver and Dimer coming up, the JC 5. Plus, like I said, talk to Tom. We got the House settlement coming up. It's impacting all of college athletics here in about 4 days. That's going to change the structure of NIL revenue share. Allegedly, I have my doubts because I do believe that there's going to be litigation like there is in our country, just about everywhere with everything these days. And as we've all learned, you can something pretty quick and then let the legal process play out. And that kind of churns very slowly these days, slower than maybe a bunch of aardvarks trying to cross the road or a sloth. That's how fast the legal system moves. Mike is back. You should have seen the frozen shot of you, dude. It was
I'm sure that was attractive.
Shot.
Yeah.
Well, you looked about like you were in your 20s, like.
Oh, okay. Well, then let's put that back. Phil, can we just put that back up there?
You belong with the young Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer behind you. I mean, I was like, is that Mike Morgan or a member of the Brat Pack?
Well, it's that was, a lot of people don't know this. I was an extra on Top Gun. So it was me and Mav and Iceman, Mongoose and Shooter, and I'm just making up names now. But yeah, sorry about that. Let's try this. Take two. We'll edit that in post. And at 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody. It's another installment of JC and Morgan. He's JC Shurburtt at 24/7 Sports. I'm Mike Morgan of ESPN, and this fine program going 9 years strong and continuing to go strong here in, well, there is no off season. We're on campus 52 weeks out of the year, and we'll continue our guest parade. Dan Wetzel, Tony Barnhart, Wes Durham, here most recently, and one of Wes's partners on ACC Primetime is Tom Luginbill, a perennial friend of the old program, JC. We always love Lugs. We got him for 30 minutes, and we're going to use that time in valuable form to not just talk about what's going on in the sport of football, but even some basketball. And yes, we'll pay a little tribute to Val Kilmer. We'll do some Fiver Dimer, which folks always love. We don't always get a chance to do it from a time constraint, but we're going to do a special version dedicated to Val. We dedicate this segment to Lugs, who's that's a new room, I think. Or is that just a new angle, Tom? What do we got going on here?
Same room, different angle.
Okay. Same room.
So I'm like diagonal instead of head on.
Yeah, I kind of like this angle better.
Well, I still got all my toys.
Gotta have the Jaws toys, yeah.
And you
The
gotta have. Look at this one.
The
You don't
gun.
like this one?
Yeah, 2 tickets to the gun shows. Luke's has been.
Yeah, dude, the guns are coming out in this angle, dude. You look great.
What's that?
The guns, your arm huge. Like
Look,
Now, you want to hear a
hulking-
funny story? So, do you see that looks like a golf club divot? I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
All right. So, my senior year, I tore my bicep tendon from the deltoid up here, and it rolled down and landed right on top of my bicep here. So, it left a huge divot, and I never got it fixed. So, it's just sitting right there.
Oh, wow.
So that's why. So my gun is actually a fake.
I thought
gun. This is my real arm.
I
But
thought
you're still
you were gonna
doing.
tell me you got bit by a shark.
No.
That would be
I would love
Shark go in the water.
the coolest.
Looms go in the water.
Morgan.
But yeah, it was
if
crazy.
you
It
were like,
snapped
I
and
got-
it
I got
rolled
my-
down like a
perfect.
rubber band, and it's just sitting here, and I never got it fixed.
Curls for the girls. That's what Tom
Yeah.
Luginbill does. Still a very high cum rating with all the females whenever you see him on the family of networks at ESPN. I'm going to start you at Luke's. I know you don't like basketball. Okay.
It's not that I don't like basketball.
Yes.
It's that I don't have the capacity with my year-round workload to
Right.
really pay attention and keep
Understood.
up with it.
Yep.
So the only thing I don't like baseball.
Yep.
I don't like soccer,
Yep.
but I'm fine with basketball.
Okay. All right. I understand that. I always make the analogy, especially in America, it's the buffet table and you got one plate. Almost every American loads up that plate at least half full with football. That is our new national pastime, right?
Sure.
And then I make the analogy that on that other half, you've only got so much room. So some people, they watch every golf tournament 52 weeks out of the year. I can't do that. I can't watch the Wells Fargo Open in Arizona on a random, Sunday in June. I'll watch the Masters, which is right around the corner, but I'm not watching a random golf tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch NASCAR, but I'm a hoops, baseball, college football, NFL, I would dare say fanatic. I can't get enough. I have a problem, right? But I don't have room for anything else. So don't overload my plate. Like it's already, the sauces are mixing, the vegetables they're grinding up against the pork. Like it's just, I got too much. My brain can't fit anything else. So I understand where you're coming from on that. But let me throw this at you. Anybody who's listened to this show over the years has heard me, like there's just certain things that stick in my craw. Some things I don't care about. I could agree to disagree, whatever. But when people say, well, that's a football school, can't be a basketball school. That's basketball school. They can't possibly care about football. It's just so stupid. Like if you've been to Lexington, they love college football.
Absolutely.
And
So does
when
Louisville.
So does Louisville. When they're good, they're all about it. They tailgate. They do all the things that the football powers do.
Look at Duke right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Duke, they're excited about football in Durham. Well, we never thought that was possible. But it is. So here's a stat that's going to knock your socks off, assuming you're wearing any Lugs. For those that think, oh, sandals, I figured.
Not sandals, flip-flops. Men don't wear
Flip-flops.
sandals.
You're not doing the Birkenstock high gray sock combo.
And by the way, Crocs are not for adults. They're for 4-year-olds.
Strong stance. I like that. Hot take off the top rope right off the bat. So for those that think you have to be divided into one category or another, we have a Final Four right now with Auburn, Florida, 2 football schools.
Yep.
Houston was once a football power, still loves college football, even though it's a commuter school and they have a hard time drawing for anything over there. It's a weird deal. And then you've got the one basketball blue blood in Duke. Okay. So since 2000, I looked this up. I heard different versions of this stat, and I kind of made this one my own. Since 2000 in college football, we've had 25 national champions. There's actually a split one in there too, but that's in the same list.
Okay.
25 national champions. 12. There's been 12 different programs. Not exactly a great variety pack. All right,
Sure.
let me go through this list. Oklahoma, Miami, Ohio State, Southern Cal, LSU, Texas, Florida, Bama, Auburn, Florida State, Clemson, Georgia. Now, obviously, there's a couple of repeats in there.
Yeah.
Alabama, several repeats.
Yeah, Clemson.
Clemson's 1-2. Florida's 1-2. Ohio State's 1-2. And then there's some programs that have kind of fallen off recently. Oklahoma.
Ohio State's 1-3, haven't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because 02 or
Yeah.
since 2. Yes. Correct. So of those, are you ready for this? For those that think, well, they're just football powers, they can't possibly be good at basketball too. All but 4 have been to a Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma, Final Four. Miami, Final Four. Ohio State, Final Four. LSU, Final Four. Texas, Final Four. Florida, multiple Final Fours. Bama, Final Four. Auburn, multiple Final Fours. And then the other 3 have been to an Elite 8. Southern Cal, Elite 8. Florida State, Elite 8. Clemson last year, Elite 8. Only one of them hasn't won so much as a game in March Madness since after the fall of 2002. And by the way, that win was taken off the books. That's Georgia with Jim Herrick.
Wow.
Georgia with Jim Herrick beat Murray State in 2002. That was later vacated by the NCAA. But they haven't won, other than that, so much as a first-round game.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of those schools I mentioned that have won national championships have either been to the Final Four, multiple Final Fours, or at minimum the Elite 8.
Now,
what does that say to you guys?
well, what's the common denominator amongst all of those programs you mentioned?
Well, a lot of money.
They're money.
Yes.
Money. And an administration and a board of regents and a board of trustees and a president that understands that when you invest in your highest revenue producing entities, men's football, men's basketball, then you have an opportunity to succeed. I think over the last 4 years, the greatest example of this in basketball is Clemson. It's Clemson. Do you remember that Little John Arena not so far as 10 years ago? I think it was a dump.
Very dumpy.
I saw Michael W. Smith in concert there. A kid.
So, look at how that has shifted, because all the administration said, hey, listen, we got to turn the tide here. We got to start investing in this thing.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising when you start to hear the schools, because all of those schools are capable of saying, okay, we're all in. Not every school is capable of doing that.
Right. I mean, and that's the bigger part of this is that, much like football, people have been critical there's not enough Cinderellas in college basketball this year. Well, you had your typical first-round upsets. You had your Will Wade at McNeese. You had a couple of those. Those will always be there. But in terms of mid-majors going to the Final Four, I think we're all but done with that. I honestly do, because all of these players, much like football, if you show out for a couple years at a mid-major, you're in the portal and you're getting plucked for a lot of money to the Power 4, Power 5. So these programs that have the funds and the facilities can dominate multiple sports, football and basketball, not to mention baseball and other non-revenue sports. I think that's where we're headed. I think we're kind of already there.
Yeah, we're widening the gap.
Yes.
Right? We're widening the gap. And say what you want, before NIL, before the transfer portal, before the settlement, before tampering, there were never any programs created equal, and there never will be.
Right.
We've now widened the gap, because how in the world, let's just take football, for example, like how in the world is, let's just say Kansas supposed to ever compete with Ohio State or Georgia or an Oklahoma or a Texas in any facet of a revenue producing sport? It's not happening. And you're not playing with the same deck of cards. And that's fine. My biggest worry is the trickle-down effect negatively of what will happen to Group of Five and FCS programs that rely on those non-conference matchups for not only funding their football program, but funding the other programs within their university. So like my son plays at Eastern Kentucky. Well, when Eastern Kentucky gets to play Louisville or plays, I think they played Florida a few years back, and this last year they opened against Mississippi State, that chunk of money is a big deal. I mean, it's the lifeblood, right? So you start going to 9 conference games, you start eliminating some of those games. If we go to super conferences, now you're really going to eliminate those games. And I think ultimately what I would like to see happen, because I think it would be really cool, is I'd love to see a Group of 5 college football playoff.
Well, we've been calling for that for years on this show.
We're the presidents of the fan.
Exactly.
I mean, it makes sense. And you know what? Everybody watch it because everybody loves football.
Correct.
And there are plenty of teams at the Group of 5 level that are nationally recognized. They may not be nationally funded, with a Tennessee or a Georgia and this and that. But if you're going to sit there and tell me that I could get, Fresno State and South Florida playing each other, or I've got, Boise State and they're going to take on so-and-so, and you took the best 10 to 12 Group of 5 schools and you had a playoff, it would be freaking awesome.
Right. No, and it would be more meaningful than the GalleryFurniture.com Bowl.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Most of those games are Group of 5 matchups anyway.
Yep. And those games all depend on who wants to be there, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're playing in those games, you give them a playoff, though, that's a different animal.
A lot of people don't understand, like, the tradition that Georgia Southern had once upon a time, or State running
the ham bone,
that kind of thing. the runs that they had, and now they hope for the Camellia Bowl.
Yeah, right. I mean, if you gave them an opportunity to play for a championship, a national championship, the best amongst their equal peers, because that is the one thing about the Group of 5 is you don't have as much disparity amongst the teams. Now, like, there are very few Group of 5 schools that are going to have like Boise's football operations facility. Okay. Right. But for the vast majority, the Sun Belt, the MAC, the WAC, they're all playing with the same deck of cards for the most part.
Which is why I've always thought one of the hardest things to do and most stressful things to do for an athletic director is to hire a coach, right? Because if you miss, it's a good way to lose your job. I've always thought, you can go one of a couple routes. You can hire the hot coordinator, and then you risk, okay, well, he's got no head coaching experience. That's a gamble. Or you can go the hot mid-major guy, and very often the hot mid-major guy has proven he has won it based on coaching acumen because his Jimmies and Joes are about the same as everybody else's Jimmies and Joes in the MAC, in the Sun Belt, in the Mountain West.
That's Lance Leipold.
Correct. That's why that's the same thing with 1AA. I mean, when I look at a guy who's dominating at these levels, I'm like, he doesn't have any distinct advantage, and he's still dominating. That's my kind of coach. That's who I would look at. That's
how Chris Kleiman ended up at Kansas State.
100%.
I think, and I've always felt this because from a player evaluation perspective, and JC knows this as well, when you're recruiting at the FCS level, you're recruiting at the Group of 5 level. You're not getting the play right away guy. You're having to make so much more of a 2 to 3 year projection forward of what we believe this guy's going to be based off of our research. And you're doing that with so many unknown variables, right? Because they're an underdeveloped, late blooming kid, and you're trying to project that he's going to be this. Whereas at Georgia or Alabama or Ohio State, they're drafting. Right? They're picking and choosing what they're going to do. So when you see that coach that is more often than not right on those projections, that guy's got a special talent. And now we're screwing that coach because if the guy becomes any good, you lose the kid and you have no way of replacing him. Because the next guy in line is a developmental guy.
Right.
Georgia loses a guy in there 2 or 3 deep. The next guy is probably the same guy. He's just not as old. Right. That's not the case at the SCS and Group of 5 level. And I have such respect for those coaches for that very reason.
No, I know it, and I I know it's becoming everybody's biggest fear, and we still get people say, "I hate the playoff, and I hate what's becoming of all this," and I get it. We are, but to your point, college football has always been the elite sport, the sport of the elites dominating. Like this has never been a great Cinderella story sport from the history of time.
Yep.
You know, it's always been kind of a cabal of a few powers in the sport that had distinct advantages over everybody else.
Yeah, what changed that was the advent of cable television in the late 80s and early 90s. And that, in my opinion, led to the downfall of the Nebraska Cornhuskers football program. Because right around all of this time, right, there were a select group of bowls, right? And all the same teams are going to bowls. Notre Dame, Texas, Alabama, Nebraska, SC, Michigan, and it was all very, very limited. An elite table, as you put it. Then, you know, what happened is you went from 105 scholarship players to 85 scholarship players. You went from unlimited walk-ons to walk-on limitations. And now, instead of being able to say, oh, we go to a bowl every year, we play for a national title every 3 years, we play on national television every week. Cable television just did that for everybody. Like I look at like, so my dad's the head coach at San Diego State in the early 90s, 89 to 94, I think. So, and at that time, if you guys recall, the Thursday night college football package was like the game of the week. So my dad goes to the AD and says, I will play that game every week if they'll put us on television. And then what we need to do is we need to have a distinct uniform, and we have to have San Diego State on our jersey on the front. So anytime we're playing on national television, you like the black and red, you don't know who it is, you recognize that we're playing Miami, or we're playing BYU, or we're playing UCLA, and then all of a sudden you start to see that trickle down to Trent Dilfer and Fresno State. Then Fresno State turns into this power. Then Boise State moves up from FCS to the Group of 5. They turn into this power. Well, why do you think all that happened? Television. Television revenue, you know, it used to be in the old days. I joke with my dad about this all the time. I said, Dad, you were 15 years too late from being a multi-millionaire.
Oh, yeah.
Because in those days, if you got fired or you had to get a job to put food on the table. There were no $7 million buyouts. There was no $4.5 million annual salary. And so that's what you mentioned, the top tier programs have always dominated the sport, but what allowed entry into the sport to create a much more competitive environment has been television.
Yeah,
no question.
I used to watch Al Luginbill's Aztecs as a kid.
Yeah, me too. I was on the sidelines for every one of those.
Oh,
you know,
played some
those games were awesome.
They played some Saturday night games too late.
Yeah.
Oh, it was, and that was back when not every game was televised, so it was a massive, massive deal for a San Diego State to get a TV window on an ESPN.
Huge.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
even on Saturdays. They come up late sometimes too, like 10:30.
Yeah, I mean that 1992 season, which was Marshall Falk's true sophomore season after he broke out in '91. San Diego State opened against SC on ABC at noon.
Right.
How does that happen in 1992?
Right.
Yeah. So, but that's where we are. That's what's led to where we are right now in college football, and why programs like Nebraska, who don't have any semblance of a player pool in recruitment, not only in their own state, but with any of the states that border them, in today's climate, I don't care what their resources are, how much money they have, what their facilities are like, and they're all elite in every regard. In recruiting, it's made that job so much more difficult than people think it is.
Well, and I still think there are some programs that have these built-in advantages. JC has heard me call them volcano programs. It's, even if they're down, it's only a matter of time before they erupt. Nebraska is not one because of geography. And geography is still, if we're dealing apples to apples on the financial aspect, because Nebraska can throw out money with the big boys.
Oh, they compete with anybody. Yeah,
absolutely.
Anybody.
but geography, which does favor certain programs that continually win, is certainly not in Nebraska's favor. I want to ask you one more kind of overarching question, and then we'll get into a little bit of what you're looking at this spring. And I know you're busy with the XFL, but I know you also always have an eye on college football. JC has talked about this a number of times. There's an article, guest that we had on just a couple weeks ago, Dan Wetzel, talking about starting this summer, the power conferences plan to regulate NIL outside the traditional NCAA enforcement. The concept is already facing skepticism. One of the quotes leading up to the article is, "This is not the way to regulate this." I have my doubts. I mean, I'm listening to coaches talk about NIL and recruiting, and they don't seem like they're ready to take the foot off the gas because, now Big Brother is truly watching if it's a legitimate NIL deal. So what do you see happening after this whole thing is resolved in, a matter of a few days, right?
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, the coaches have to take ownership of this. They created this, and they're furthering it through tampering, right? And making what is already a bad set of circumstances worse. When we talk about regulating NIL, we talk about regulating the transfer portal, we talk about regulating collectives or, what have you. I think before a part of that has to do with collective bargaining, because anytime you try to now impose a rule or anything that looks like it could be a restriction, antitrust. I'm going to lawyer up. We're that. You can't do that. You can't restrict even with the settlement that's coming down, there are people that are arguing that by putting the cap at $21 million, whatever it is, it's going to get dispersed, that you're limiting their opportunity to earn. And it's like, at what point, guys, are we going to get to a place where the players don't get everything? All right. Gino Auriemma at UConn said it best. He goes, "How are we expected to coach players who think we owe them everything and they owe us nothing?" Because that's the world we're living in right now. And again, the coaches got to take ownership for why we're living in it, and they're the reason. And so until we get to a point where there's a collective bargaining agreement or a conversation where both parties come to the table and there's agreed upon processes and a blueprint to execute that, and that means that the players are going to have to give, the universities are going to have to give, but you just can't keep doing what we're doing. I mean, what we're doing right now is absolute insanity. There's like something is, you talk about enforcement, all right, and regulating. Okay, you can talk all you want about that, but the moment you do that and somebody lawyers up and says that's antitrust, and none of it matters anyway, right? So that's the part that concerns me more than anything else. It's easy to say it, but it's hard to do it and stay out of court.
There's a classic expression, you can't get a little bit pregnant. What the players are enjoying right now that is not sustainable in a lot of ways is all the perks and benefits of being employees without the responsibility of contracts that every other professional athlete has.
Correct. And without qualified, approved representation, okay, and without any type of adherence to responsibilities and obligations of being said football player or said basketball player or what have you. You think a team that's out of the playoffs in the last week of November in the NFL, and now all of a sudden, they're not going to make playoffs. Do guys just sit out?
No.
Do guys opt out? No, they're not allowed to.
Right. They're
under contract. There's a collective bargaining agreement. You can't do that. We've got to somehow get to a point where there are obligations that have to be met. And everybody talks about, the coaches can go everywhere they want. Yeah, they have a contract and there's a buyout in it. These guys sign these deals or whatever it is. There's no morality clauses. You can't put performance stipulations. They're going to get their money whether they play well or play bad, right? Like, that's not reality.
No, it's not. Like, if you want to be treated like a pro, then we'll treat you like a pro. Right now, it's not the way pros work. It's not the way any functional system actually works. Stories, spring football, we've talked about this too. The spring games are becoming a way of the dodo. You got teams deciding not to do it at all. You got others that are like, yeah, we'll do it, but we don't want to be on TV. But just overarching stuff, anything in particular you've got your eye on this spring that has maybe caught your fancy, so to speak?
I think I'm becoming more and more fascinated with how coaches either develop or maybe most importantly maintain any level of locker room chemistry and foundational pillars of what their program's about when your roster is a revolving door. I think that is incredibly difficult because you spent so much time at the high school level building the foundation of your program with kids you'd recruited for 2 to 3 years. You know them intimately. You know exactly why you're there, why you invested so much in them. And now all of a sudden, all of that can change in a heartbeat by bringing in 35, 40, 42 guys that you didn't have that time with, that you didn't invest in and investigate and try to educate yourself on. And how are you supposed to maintain chemistry and a positive locker room atmosphere? Because the loyalty isn't necessarily to the program. The loyalty is to the dollar bill.
Yeah.
All right. And I think that creates tremendous challenges for, and listen, in the blink of an eye, it can backfire on you. Just ask Mike Norvell.
No.
Because you talk about a team. Go ahead, JC.
Oh, no, I was going to add Kirby Smart to that list. I mean, what happened to him, to Mike Norvell hasn't happened to Kirby, but if you listen to some of what he said, I mean, the last 2 press conferences have been, our players are offended when we coach them. And then yesterday, he mentioned there are people, agents getting on Zoom calls to showcase the players that they represent that are playing for other schools that have invited him to Zoom. I mean, Georgia's one of those schools. They're very young next year. So he's got young players he's got to bring along. So I'll let's go ahead and finish. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, but you're right, and Kirby's right. You can't coach them hard because they get offended, and they pick up their ball and they start sniveling and they go home, and then they want to transfer, and then they want to jump in the transfer portal, right? But I think when I say when it comes to recruiting and the transfer portal and the revolving door and transactional nature of football now, if you look at that team that went, what was it, 12-0 or 13-0 or whatever it was, 13-0, and then obviously got damaged with the injuries and didn't make the playoff. That team, almost every single impact player on that roster, Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, Jordan Travis, Trey Benson, Jaheim Bell, Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, I could go on and on, all transfers. And they hit on every one of them, right? But as Nick Saban said on his first game day show in Ireland this past fall, he goes, you can pay all the guys you want, but if you pay the wrong ones, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah.
And now you look at Florida State, 1 year advanced from that 13-0 team. And so it can turn on you fast. And by the way, he's talking about spring football and all this and that. What is the NCAA going to actually do if Colorado and Syracuse want to play each other in the spring?
Yeah.
What are they going to do? If I'm Mike Norvell at Florida State, or I'm Dave Doran at NC State, whatever, and I want to get together and we're gonna go up, we're gonna team up with Pitt for 4 or 5 days, and we're gonna team up with Jonathan Smith at Michigan State. What are you gonna do? You gonna fine them? You have no teeth. You have no governing power. You've become a laughingstock in intercollegiate athletics. Like, that's what I think these coaches should start doing. Just start doing it, and the old better to ask forgiveness and permission.
Forgiveness later. Well, I would have loved to have seen the NCAA stick its chest out and all huff and puff at that if it was, let's say, LSU and Michigan wanted to do a spring game against one another. Are you going to tell Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, hey, you better not do that or else?
Exactly. Now, listen, I think it's cool that teams would want to do that. Do I think it's the wisest thing in today's climate of tampering in the portal to be able to give a bird's eye view in person for a couple of days of another team's roster? That's probably something that most coaches don't want to do. But if they wanted to do that, it could be a big revenue producer. right? It could be a heck of a deal. Let them do it. What does it matter?
Well, I agree. I think before people get too excited about what these two coaches tried to do, don't think that that's the norm, because most of them are overly paranoid and don't want any part of something like that.
Correct.
They don't want their stress level to go up one iota on the meter.
Well, that is why here's what you do. And going back to the FCS programs, you do it with FCS schools in your state and you pay them. They make a little money. They get a good workout, and you get to go with somebody else. They get to gauge where they're at. You're really not you're not in a position where the FCS program is going to steal your players, right? So, like that could be something. Like if Clemson wants to play Furman, if South Carolina wants to go for 2-3 days play South Carolina State, right? If Auburn wants to go ahead and play Samford,
I think that's the more.
Who loses?
Nobody, and I think that's the more realistic one. Like, give me a cream puff, and maybe I'll consider it.
Sure.
I know we've got you for limited time. I want to get one more football question, and then I've got to get your thoughts on our boy Val. Okay? Can we do this? Can we get rapid fire tempo, no huddle? Here we go. Give me the conference champion for the Power Four in 2025. SEC, ACC, Big 10, Big 12. Boom, go.
Clemson ACC, Penn State Big 10.
Okay.
Texas SEC.
Okay.
And that's a tough one in the Big 12.
It's the most round robin, like free for all. Who the hell can do it? Arizona State was a great story last year.
That was a great story, yeah. Actually, their quarterback's really good. I might give them a repeat.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I miss a conference? No, I didn't miss a conference, did I?
No, I only asked you 4.
There you go.
I didn't expand it. Love the coach over there. By the way, at Arizona State, I think that's one of the better stories that maybe didn't get a ton of coverage last year in college football. All right, Val Kilmer tragically passes away. I shouldn't say tragically. He had health issues. It wasn't completely unexpected, but certainly sad to see him go. We do this thing, fiver, dimer, or neither. And so rather than throw a few movies at you and get it around, and we'll get JC back. He's having a little bit of internet issues. We're gonna chop up Val's career into which categories fit which movies.
Okay.
How many dimers do you have for Val Kilmer? Movies you've seen at least 10 times, parts of, not like sitting through in a movie theater 10 times, but it's on cable. The remote does not drop. What's a dimer that Val Kilmer has been featured in over his illustrious career?
Tombstone.
Okay.
That would be a dimer for me. That's probably it. Yeah.
Not Top Gun. I thought for sure you'd be on Top Gun.
That would be a fiver. I don't know if I've seen it 10 times. But if you count Top Gun Maverick and put them together, then it's a dimer.
Well, you can't do that. No, that's
why he's in both movies.
I checked the rule book. Those are 2 separate films. We sent the NCAA won't allow it. And
God!
We checked with we sent it to Indianapolis beforehand, and they said no. Lugs is always trying to skirt the rules. He's a circumventer. No, can't do that. So I have 2 in the dimer category. Top Gun for me, that is a Ben Franklin, and Heat. He's so good in Heat. And that's a Ben Franklin movie for me. And I don't even like those kind of movies.
You don't?
No. See, you and I have we have similar taste, Jaws, Mr. Mom. And then we have different taste. I don't like the cartoon movies. No offense. The Batman, the Spider-Man. If you're wearing a cape.
Superhero movies. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That for me, it's just not my bag. I don't criticize anybody who loves them.
But you don't like heist movies?
I don't typically like heist movies because I don't buy it. Like the Ocean's 11 series, it's like, how many good-looking people can we fit into this, right? How many good-looking people, and then the plot will just take care of itself, and they rob a bank and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I thought The Town was it was good. It was the JV version of Heat.
Yeah.
Heat by Michael Mann is that is the bar. You just try to get as close as you can to it. Forget about the fact that it's Pacino and De Niro in a scene together for the first time ever.
No. By the way, did you know that both of their faces are never on camera in that entire movie. They're in scenes together, but one shot may be behind Al Pacino's head and facing De Niro. The next shot might be behind De Niro's head facing Pacino. It's an interesting trivia question.
You're talking about the diner scene. What about when he kills him at the end, and De Niro, grabs his hand and says, "I told you I'm not going back."
But I don't think their faces are on camera at the same time.
So you're saying they were never together in the same room during that movie?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that their faces.
Oh,
in the scene, we're never on camera together.
Right, but they are actually in the same.
Oh, yeah. But you never see their faces together. And by the way, not to get off point here, but have you seen Alto Nights?
No, never even heard of it.
It just came out. It's De Niro. It's the story of Frank Costello and Vito Genovese, and he plays both characters. And it's basically the story of the downfall of the American mob and what led to it. It's really good.
And De Niro, not whack job Hollywood De Niro.
No, like that guy's a friggin' clown, but boy, can he act. Because
he still can act.
He plays both characters, and the one character, as the movie goes on, you start to forget it's him.
Okay. I'll give it a shot. I mean,
Alto Nights, check it out.
Sometimes
you like mob movies.
I love mob movies. You know this. Like there's so many of them that are dimers for me. De Niro concerns me. I want to give him a hug, and I want him to see.
I do too.
I want to see him
and a Kleenex.
Some help. Yes, get some help.
By the way, on Heat, getting back to Heat, I'm an in-between fiver and dimer on that. I've probably seen that 7 to 8 times, but I don't know if I've
you owe it to yourself. I mean, it's a long watch. It's a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, his movies are always really long. Yeah,
Michael Mann is the guy that did it, and it's just from start to finish. And Kilmer is so good in that movie. Now he is not the star by any means.
He's understated,
but he's very understated. Yeah. And you believe his struggle. By the way, he's got a problem with sports gambling. There's your sports tie. That's why his wife Ashley Judd always wants to leave him.
Yeah.
And he's robbing banks so he can keep the family happy. And then like at the end, when his wife gives him the signal, like, no, this is a sting operation. Just keep going. He has to run away from his family to avoid prison. He's excellent. So dimer for me, Top Gun, Heat. You mentioned fiver for you would be Heat. I've got 3 in the fiver category, including a sleeper. Top Secret, great 80s comedy.
Great movie.
Right? I think that might be from the same makers of Airplane. I'm not 100%.
It is. It's Naked Gun, Airplane. It's all the same guys.
Same type of just
it's
great.
Just a spoof on James Bond.
Right. It's great. Real Genius, another 80s comedy. That's a fiver.
Fantastic.
And Wonderland.
Yep, where he plays John Holmes.
He plays John Holmes based on a true story, the Wonderland Murders, which I knew nothing about. When that movie came out, I was like, oh, is this like another Boogie Nights? He's playing John Holmes. No. You can Google it. It's about
a real story.
It's a real story, and it's very well done. And he's great in that as well. He plays a train wreck, which Holmes was. If you follow his real life, it's more than just what he did for a living, which everybody's fascinated with. But he was an absolute mess. And I thought Kilmer's portrayal of him, outstanding. So that's a fiver for me.
So all 3 of those that you just mentioned are fivers for me too. I'm going to add one more fiver that I think is really underrated for him, and that's The Saint.
I've never seen it. A lot of people love that movie.
It's really well done. It's a spy movie. But like he has all these various disguises and everything that he has to wear throughout it. So he plays a bunch of different roles, a bunch of different accents. Like it shows some pretty good chops.
Good chops. All right, best of the rest. Believe it or not, I've only seen Tombstone once. I was very young when it came out.
Come on, dude.
I don't know what to tell you. I just haven't got it. Just if it's on.
Have you seen Star Wars?
Yes, 100 times. I have seen Star Wars, and we know I've seen a lot of. I've no knock on the movie. I just haven't seen it more than the one. It was a one and done for me when I was young, and I haven't seen it since.
Okay.
Top Gun Maverick, separate one. I put that in best of the rest. I like the movie. I've seen it 2-3 times. I don't know if I'm going to watch it 1,000,000 times.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. It's a feel-good movie when we needed to feel good.
Absolutely. I tell you what, though, when you wait that long to make a sequel to that big of a blockbuster, and you do it right, that's an
Yes.
accomplishment.
I 100% agree. I have no knock on the film. It's just for me, some movies are really good, but you don't necessarily watch them every time it's on. Right?
Sure.
So that's where Top Gun Maverick sits for me. And then The Doors.
Yep.
I saw that, and I'm not a big Jim Morrison guy.
Me neither, but he was him.
But he was him. Listen to an interview with Oliver Stone, and he said, no, Kilmer was Jim Morrison in that movie.
It's like Rami Malek in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes. So these are not movies I want to watch anytime they're on, but I can respect the fact that Kilmer was outstanding in that lead role.
Yeah. Go check out The Saint, dude. I think you'd really like it.
I will.
By the way, it's Elizabeth Shue.
Well, now you got me.
Exactly.
You know, I'm always ready for Katie. Allie with an I. Come on.
Let's go.
Allie with JC, you were disposed with internet issues.
Shoot.
Dimer, Fiver, best of the rest. We got to go rapid fire. We got to get Lugs out of here. Dimer on the Val Kilmer front.
Dimer on the Val Kilmer front, obviously. God, you got Heat's a Ben Franklin. I mean, I've watched that 3 times.
He said the same thing.
Yep.
You kind of look at Tombstone's a 5er for me. I'm probably not. I haven't seen it as much as you guys have. Willow, I thought sucked.
I never saw Willow.
I saw Willow. It wasn't very good.
I thought that my dad owned a video store when I was in 5th grade, and we had the box. And the box was weird. He looked like an elf anyway.
Yeah.
Not him though. Not Val Kilmer. Probably The Doors would be a dimer for me. I do like their music. As a later Gen Xer, we gravitated back toward the 60s and 70s a little bit, and that's when the movie came out. And I thought that was his tour de force acting moment. I also liked him as Elvis in True Romance. I think there is some debate. Tom and Mike and I were texting about this, that the Tombstone role was his best pure acting job. Mm-hmm. I can buy that. I'm going to go with The Doors. So just the embodiment of it.
Yeah.
Before, and the great thing about Val Kilmer too, I'll wrap with this. You didn't hear, he's not a guy like, oh my God, he's Daniel Day-Lewis going and living this, that, and the other. He delivered as a movie star when he's a straight movie star. And then he delivered as a character actor.
Yep.
And if he was a secondary character like he was in Heat, he killed it.
Yeah.
I mean, he just destroyed it, and he will be missed.
So let me give you a nugget before I get out of here. So what's the famous line? You guys repeat it to me from Val Kilmer in Tombstone.
I'll be your Huckleberry.
Okay. What you just said there. All right, I'm going to blow your minds here, right? You ready?
All right.
He's not saying, I'm your Huckleberry. He's saying, I'm your Hucklebearer. And a Hucklebearer is one of the people that carry the casket. And the huckle is the handle on the side of the casket. So basically what he was telling him is, you're about to go down and I'm going to be carrying you to the grave.
I did not know that. JC, were you aware of this factoid?
Absolutely not.
Breaking news.
If you listen to it very carefully, you can tell he said, I'm your Huckleberry.
Gotcha.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
By the way, Val Kilmer declined a role in The Outsiders, as if that movie did not have enough stars.
Yeah, no kidding.
Would he have played Derry, like the Patrick Swayze
I don't know.
role?
I just read that in his bio. I don't know who he would have played.
He should have kept being Batman. I thought he was a good Bruce Wayne in Batman.
Yeah.
One of the better ones after post PK, post Keaton.
Yeah, exactly.
He was so much better than Clooney, I thought,
Oh, yeah, obviously.
And for those that have missed it, there was a documentary that came out a few years ago.
Val, it's really good.
It's really good. Really
Where he
good.
just randomly started taking videos of his whole life every single day. It was so good. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those that are like, what do I need to get a little more Val Kilmer in my diet? You can go ahead and watch the documentary. For those who need some more XFL in their diet, Luke, so what do you got this weekend?
UFL.
Oh, shoot. My bad. You could tell how involved I am in it. Tell me who you got.
We're Saturday night primetime on ABC this week. We're Memphis at DC. So one of the better environments in the league that they play in an MLS stadium, and it really rocks. That's where the beer snake is, and the fans really get into it. It'll be a lot of fun.
Nice. Memphis Showboats of the USFL. Reggie White. That's the USFL I grew up on as
right.
a kid.
That's right.
Reggie White was an absolute stud out of Tennessee before he eventually became a Philadelphia Eagle. See, it all comes back around full circle.
Yep.
Lugs, whenever you come back on this show full circle, it's always a pleasure. We thank you for the time, and we look forward to talking to you again. Have a great call this weekend.
All right, we'll do, guys. Always enjoy it. Take care.
Thanks, bud.
See ya.
Same to you. He is Tom Luginbill, the man, the myth, the legend. He's like the Dos Equis guy. He's the most interesting man on the face of the earth, or at least sometimes here on JC and Morgan, presented in part by MG&A Wealth for all your financial needs. Sean is the man with the plan, helping people in 48 states currently. No matter where you are, Sean and MG&A Wealth can make sure that you've got your investment portfolio in order, designed to help your family's future. MGAwealth.com. You can also call Sean directly at 954-289-9000, 954-289-9000. Ask for Sean. Tell him you heard about it here on JC and Morgan. We need a JC5, and there's only one man that can deliver it. It's the man on the screen to the right. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, well, he's got a beard. He's wearing a navy blue hoodie because he lives in frigid Chicago, and we don't blame him for that. It's all based on love. So is this show, and we'll be back right after this. Mike here for our friends at MG&A Wealth. It's never a bad time to have someone on your side for all your financial needs. You need a trustworthy partner who has a true understanding of your situation in order to help you with smart and practical solutions. Since 1984, MG&A Wealth has helped their clients manage not just their wealth, but their lives. Today, as a nationally recognized wealth management firm, their team of pros remains dedicated to serving your best interests with an emphasis on personal attention and customized solutions. MG&A Wealth has clients all across the country, and they all get results. Don't put it off any longer. Call our friends at MG&A Wealth at 954-289-9000. That's 954-289-9000. MGAwealth.com is the website. They do more than manage wealth. They help manage lives.
Blow on energy? Struggling with inflammation and poor digestion? Try Encapsulate 6 Mushroom Blend and get back in the game. Our blend is specially formulated to promote overall wellness and maximize health benefits using 6 powerful functional mushrooms. Our science-forward approach offers the most potent and bioavailable mushroom supplement on the market, backed by third-party testing to ensure safety and efficacy. Order online on Amazon or encapsulateusa.com today to start your journey to better living. Enter promo code JCM for $10 off.
Hey, folks, want to tell you about our friends at Titan Construction Group really quick. They're a mid-Atlantic-based general contractor, specializes in retail, restaurant, and office construction. TCG strives to separate itself from other general contractors by adding value every step of the process. From project budgeting to estimation, value engineering to construction, they focus on those relationships and not the transaction. Titan builds partnerships one project at a time. Among their clients are Starbucks, Crumble Cookie, Blake Pizza, Home Goods, 15 plus years experience, based in Midlothian, Virginia, and contracted in Virginia, West Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. So get on their website, TitanCGinc.com. That's TitanCGinc.com. Get in touch with Brad if you're in need of a general contractor that focuses on going above and beyond for their clients. That's Titan Construction Group, a proud sponsor of the JC and Morgan podcast.
This is JC and Morgan on the Chief Sports Network.
College football forever.
Oh, welcome back.
I'm here.
There you are, buddy.
Every now and then the internet is tricky, and I won't bore everybody with the details, but
those listening on podcast format, if you're catching the YouTube replay or live, it's been a little choppy, but podcast people aren't going to notice it.
Yeah, the majority of our our listeners are unable to catch us live, although we love the people that do participate and listen live on the show. So, as we like to say in the business, that some of this will not make the cutting room floor, particularly when when we get bounced out. Something about cache in the memory of the computer, and we have all these great visual elements that take up a lot of space on the hard drive, and I don't have my computer nerd guy to come here and fix all this stuff. It's clearly a situation where you're operating with too much cache and not enough memory. I don't have a guy like that.
My problem earlier today it was the computer. But my problem earlier today, I record a podcast that I do in the mornings on Zoom, and Zoom will slow it down. Zoom and the program we use at the same time, if they're both open, they make it choppy. So that's what happened on my end. I had to restart and shut Zoom down because if you don't restart, it's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah, the beautiful thing is combined with the two of us, one of us will always be on the air. So
you just get a solo for
we just no dead spots. We just go in and out. It's like a play. Every now and then one of us, goes backstage and a costume change, then we come back out and we join the ensemble. With that all being said, I need a JC5. Can we get an intro or do we do that on our own? I guess we do that on our own.
All right.
We're sharing producer responsibilities today. So let me use my best Gary voice. It's time for the JC5.
Right.
Number one,
Mike. After listening to Kirby Smart's last two press conferences, I'm kind of convinced that the days of, just college players coming in, developing, getting through their freshman year and just understanding that recruiting is over and all that. Those days are probably over. I was pointing out to get into somebody's mind, a football player's mind, especially young people. My question is this. You look and you see the outbound players at Georgia, and you see Alabama loses a bunch, and you see Southern Cal and all their attrition. All these teams are teams that recruit in the top 5. Ohio State broke the bank last year largely on retaining acres that could have either gone late rounds of the NFL or gotten in the portal and made a little more money. It's hard to retain. Retention's hard. Do you see a situation possibly where they reevaluate high school recruiting? In other words, they're not necessarily, because I believe because of my industry and Tom's industry, that there already was some entitlement. But when you sign a class full of 4 and 5 stars and they get there, they're all in the same boat. People would not believe the amount of freshman football players that want to transfer as soon as they get there. Freshman kids in general, it's hard. It's a transition. Do you see them maybe reevaluating recruiting a little bit? And if a guy is maybe a 3-star, and because he's a half inch shorter, or maybe not as strong as this guy that's a 5 or whatever, or your own personal evaluations with your staff. If you have one guy that's got a load of hype, there's not a ton of difference in a year. This other guy's going to be just as good. Do you see them maybe opting for that developmental guy and putting a little more science into the evaluation process to where you're not bringing in a load of entitlement and churning your roster every year? Because in football, roster.
Great question. In short, for the elite programs, I would say no. I just think the elite programs that can get those guys, the cream of the crop, the top guys, the guys that run a 4.4 instead of a 4.75, the guys that are 6'2", 210-pound wide receiver versus the guy that looks like Ladd McConkey, who barely gets recruited. Eventually, Georgia throws a scholarship his way almost as an afterthought, and he turns into an NFL 1,000-yard receiver. Georgia's had the best of both worlds in that regard. But no, I think the elite programs are still going to go after the top guys, and they're going to deal with some of the headaches because at the end of the day, with all the scholarships that you have in football, if you get a cancerous guy, a toxic guy, a guy that's not worth it, you know what you do? You run them off. You say, you know that money you got last year, NIL, whatever you want to call it, salary, whatever euphemism we use for all this pay for play, it's gone. And that's the message. It's the only message you need to deliver. There's the door. And the programs with the great culture can afford to take a temporary hit. I mean, look, as good as Georgia's been, they've had some problems, particularly at the wide receiver spot with guys that get in trouble with the law, guys that go 100 miles an hour on campus, guys that don't get along with everybody. And they've been able to still keep a great culture in Athens with Kirby. And they just kind of push the bad guy out the door, bring another 5-star in, and it's worked. As opposed to the other programs that have to, like a Wake Forest is always going to be a developmental program. I don't care how many coaches you bring in there. They're going to have to take chances on those 2-star guys and hope that they turn into what Clawson had them turning into, 3- and 4-star guys. And then there's the middle of the two, like a Kansas State or something like that. And I think those programs are not only developmental, but they're going to have to go with some of the basketball attitude, which is older is better, and get portal guys. If we can't beat you on 4- and 5-star guys, we're going to beat you with 22 and 23-year-old guys, and that's going to be our formula. But I think the elite of the elite, JC, and I could be wrong, and this is more your turf than mine, they're always they can't turn it down. They just can't turn their backs on a guy that's got 5 stars next to his name, even if he is a royal pain in the ass.
It's a formula that's worked for those elite programs for years, man. Mm-hmm. And there's been very little like true ascension. The only 2 programs that have really elevated the last since the early 90s have been Oregon and Clemson. Oregon hasn't even won a national title. Clemson did twice. And Clemson actually was good in the early 80s. That was kind of their breakthrough. Oregon years and a bunch of money to get the Ducks going. I mean, they used to be horrible. Kansas State's elevated largely with Bill Snyder and JUCOs. Virginia Tech went up. Now they're back to being kind of 500 where Frank Beamer built it. It's hard. It's very hard. And that's a formula, the 4- and 5-star guys, the top guys in elite recruiting, no matter how you star rate it, has been the key. I think for that to change, and I agree with you, it's not going to change anytime soon, maybe not in our lifetime. You're going to have more, because all this is so new. You're going to have years of data where it's like Georgia had the number 2 class in the country all these years. And I'm using Georgia as an example. I think Kirby Smart actually is smart enough, and that's a good enough program, and there's so much talent in Georgia. He can kind of go dig a little bit and find your lad McConkeys. They're actually good at that. But look at Program X. Georgia had the number 2 class in the country. They went 8-4, 4-8, 5-7, 5-7. And all those guys left after 1 year. And they had all these problems and all that. It's something like that where it's demonstrable. It is, you can demonstrate, hey, this has changed. I don't think we're there yet. Ohio State won the national championship last year. And as long as that keeps happening, I mean, Georgia and Texas recruit as well as anyone. They were in the playoff. The other schools that made it are largely functions of conference and schedule. The blue bloods that made it are the blue bloods that recruit in the top 10. So I think you're right. I don't see it changing anytime soon. I just kind of that E word, my wife talks about it all the time. She would be a coach if she were a different life, right?
Coaching that
entitlement. That team got, and she'll call it, dude. Looks like that team's entitled. She's like, I have these expletive, Notre Dame, expletive. After that entitlement word. And she's right. It's amazing how sometimes people can get it. The entitlement in this sport, in football, is not conducive to success because it's about maximization. You can't just go and chill in the off season and not work out, get stronger, bigger, faster. And that's hard. and get better at football. You're just not, because the guy that we talked about that maybe a little bit lower ranked than you because of testing in high school, he's going to pass you. It's a very much so a talent maximization game. So we'll see what happens. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but I'm curious to see if the evaluation process in college does change a little bit.
Yeah, I also. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say I also want to see, like, even the established programs that don't rely on the portal. If you look at the past few national champions, a lot of transfer quarterbacks in there, going back to Joe Burrow from Ohio State, Stetson Bennett. Of course, we know he went to a few places before he got to Georgia. Last year, you had a transfer quarterback win the national championship. That is a position. This is not really dealing with your entitlement aspect, but that is a position. I don't know if coaches want to gamble. If you got a loaded roster, do you want to really spend the time and develop a kid on the fly out? Because it's hard to really develop if you're not on the field. So do you want to roll the dice with a raw quarterback, or just take the proven commodity?
No, and you said even Joe. You mentioned Joe Burrow, who had spent a couple of years at Ohio State, lost the job, came to LSU, and that's before the portal. There's Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, and then after that, Jalen Hurts goes out to Oklahoma and plays well, and then now you have transfer quarterbacks all over the place. You're absolutely right, and here's the question I would ask you, like Cam Ward. All right, so Cam Ward was on School 3 last year. Mm-hmm. So why would Miami? Because these quarterbacks too, they know their value out of high school, the Elite 11 guys and all that, and some schools are stupid enough to pay the asking price. Others are like, no, thank you. Why would you spend the money now that we're going to have a pseudo cap allegedly? Spend the money to get this guy to sit on the bench for 2 years before he's ready, although he may be special, when you can let Incarnate Word and Washington State do it and then just go get him.
Exactly. And look, we talked about Florida State earlier. They wanted Cam Ward. They were in the bidding. They got outbid. Now, I'm not saying Florida State wouldn't still have had struggles, because their problems were deeper than just that position. However, I am telling you, they wouldn't have been a dumpster fire if they had the number one pick in the draft throwing the football out there, as opposed to DJU, who was a dumpster fire for much of his career at 3 different schools. So that to me, that's why the prices of quarterbacks, it's going to just continue to soar. It's going to an established guy in the portal that can immediately, and if they didn't choke, if they didn't gag it away at Syracuse, the U-Dog would have been in the playoff, which has not been where Miami's been as a program in quite some time. That was all Cam Ward. If you flip the quarterbacks, DJU at Miami and Cam Ward at Florida State.
Oh,
you want to talk about 2 different paths, sliding doors?
Wow. Mario Cristobal, because of as bad as Miami's defense was last year.
Yeah.
And then you throw DJU out there trying to make plays. Woo,
right.
Shoot, buddy.
That's a bad football
team.
They'd be fighting for the Boise Bowl. I mean, it would be an entirely different fate. All right.
One more thing about quarterbacks. Yeah. To your point too, it is different than other positions. It is actually a little bit more different, Mike, when you're talking about football than when you're talking about baseball and like pitchers versus position players. Like there's a difference there, right? Pitching, position players line up, that kind of thing. In football, quarterback there's almost much more of a difference there, because like, as you mentioned, it affects your team so much when you have struggles at that spot. And then around the country, you can find guys that maybe, not, it's crazy because DJU had the good year at Oregon State. Oh, well, we want him now, all based on high school hype. Let's talk about, throw that back, Haynes King. There's one thing, Jimbo Fisher, who failed at A&M, and we know that and all that, and his offensive system needs work, blah, blah, blah. One thing that guy's great at is identifying quarterback talent. He always has been. There's a reason he kept putting Haynes King in the lineup at A&M, because he saw something in him. It was a struggle city, struggle bus. He's out, right? look at the impact he made at Georgia Tech. We mentioned Miami. Haynes King beats Miami with one arm. He couldn't even throw the ball last year. Think about his effort against University of Georgia in that game. How much did Haynes King mean to Georgia Tech? A ton.
Mm-hmm.
So in quarterbacking, sometimes one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? Joe Burrow got beat out, like we said, and look at what he did national championship wise. Jalen Hurts got beat out, goes to Oklahoma, and now he's a Super Bowl winner. I mean, there's a lot. It's so different than just your normal, these are the best guys, let's go. It's such a different position. I think you're absolutely on to something there. That's why we love Mike Morgan here on JC Morgan.
Let's just end right there.
No, we still got quarterback guru, my man. All right, number two. All right, so I think Fran Brown and Deion Sanders had the right idea. My question for you is, because of the way they ruled on the thing, they didn't say, no, this is illegal, blah, blah, blah. What they said was they kind of interpreted it as an unfair advantage because, what happens is, Mike, okay, so they're going to want to go do it. So everybody else will want to go do it. So there's some schools that are done with spring practice. There's some schools that would have to come back and get the pads back out if they wanted to do it. So is that competitively fair? No. And that the NCAA's job, I guess, still is to kind of say, the rules are the rules. But with the way that came down, I think it's coming. I think they'll approve it. So my question to you is, what will be the ideal setup? Should it preseason? Should it be in the summer? Like they're talking about doing moving spring practice to June, like OTAs. What would be the ideal setup in Mike Morgan's mind, both from a fan of college football standpoint and from, take the media perspective. Like if you're going to put something like this on TV, what would be the ideal setup?
Well, the ideal setup would be what those two gentlemen wanted to do. Have two different conference teams playing one another in a semi-legitimate game. Now, I don't think coaches are going to ever get to the point where they're like, yeah, let's just play it like a regular game. You want to go ahead and blitz every other down? You want to take shots at my quarterback? Yeah, sure. Let's do it. I don't see most coaches doing that. But ideally, yeah, I'd love it to resemble an actual game, like a preseason NFL game, except the starters don't just play a half, but most of the game. And then you play it, and we televise it, and we have fans pay for it, and maybe it's a nice little boost for some NIL and all that other good stuff. That's what I'd love to see in my college football, spring football utopia. Reality, I think the best we're ever going to get, and Luke's kind of hit on it, is like a Georgia playing Georgia Southern, a Colorado playing Northern Colorado, a Texas playing who's the one? What am I trying to think of here? What's the college, the 1AA school in Texas? That's
Abilene Christian or Incarnate Word.
There's another one, but
Tarleton State.
Yet another one.
Good Lord, man.
There's one that's like a Sam Houston State.
Sam Houston, okay.
Okay, so yeah, like I was trying to think of my Texas 1AA powers.
Well, they're in Conference USA now. Stephen F. Austin still may be in FCS.
That's right. I can't keep up with this.
The Lumberjacks.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that's the best we could possibly hope for. And honestly, even if the rules permit it, I'm skeptical to believe that, because coaching paranoia, forget about the portal for a second. It's just on injuries. It's just the moment a guy gets hurt that's out there, coach is going to be second guess. Why are you playing him in a worthless spring game? Like that happens all the time in the preseason in the NFL, even though most injuries are non-contact, but it's going to happen. So I don't think we're very close, as much as people want it. I don't think we're very close to having like legitimate spring football games. I think it's going to be ones versus twos within the team, and different colored jerseys on the quarterback, and vanilla defenses with no blitzes. I think that's still going to remain the norm.
I think this. Number 3.
No, go ahead.
Well, I might have one more thing.
Yeah.
I think this is the only sport. Only football. Besides my stepson's interestingly coached high school team that for some reason doesn't believe in scrimmaging other teams. That doesn't get a look. I mean, the NFL, they have combined practices, they have exhibition games, they have scrimmages. My high school team, man, we played like 3 teams for the jamboree.
We did jamborees, yeah.
Game. And then, and in Florida, the state of Florida in high school, these days they have 17 full contact spring practices and a jamboree spring game against an opponent. I mean, that's a lot of football.
Yeah.
But we don't ever give anybody a look, right? It's just against each other. My feeling is what's coming is they're gonna move everything out of spring into summer because the argument is, hey, we don't have our full team because there's another portal window, and they don't want to get rid of the other portal window because it you have the semesters there, right? And so I think that's the compromise. So I think we're going to a June spring college football thing. Second, I think what we will see at a minimum is combined practices like they do in the NFL. Because you can come in and practice. And I understand what Lugs is saying, and I agree. Coaches are arguing about they're going to go steal my players. Well, you know how you solve that, Mike. Every university has attorneys, and you just you say, okay, hey, you agree for the next. You're not going to sign any of our players on our roster. We're not going to sign any of yours. We're going to agree. Let's say it's Georgia Tech and Tennessee, and they're not on the schedule, and they don't play each other and all that. And it may be your coaches are going to have to make a decision. Are you going to be greedy and want to poach some guys? You're more worried about that, or you're more worried about getting your team better? And I think most will choose to get them better. You sign a legal document saying we're going to sue your ass off if you take any of our players, and there could be financial penalties, and that'll quiet down real quick. But I think combined practices. Another thing I thought, you have everybody plays 7-on-7 in high school. Have a 7-on-7. Less injuries, we think. An alignment challenge where you're doing one-on-ones without pads, something like that, because it's asinine that you don't get a look at the other team. At a team other than yourself until you go play games for real. No other sport does that.
Right.
We go through, even in college baseball, they have college basketball has the super secret scrimmages and then another exhibition. Everybody's got to warm up. Why in college football, I guess 130 years we hadn't done that. I have no idea. So anyway, number three. Okay, so Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, that's the safety, right? I always confuse him for Ohio State. Caleb Downs. Mm-hmm. That's his name?
I believe so, yeah.
Caleb Downs, okay. They're Brad Crawford has them as the number 1 and number 2 players coming back in the country next year, with Cade Klubnik as the quarterback returning next year. Your thoughts on those guys? Is that correct?
And just to confirm, you had me second guessing myself for a second, but it's definitely Caleb Downs. You were right. Gosh, I certainly agree on number 1. I think that's one of one. Now we go to, okay, Caleb Downs might be the very best safety in the sport next year. But if we're talking about the importance of positions, you and I do another show where we're talking about Nicky Manwari, and like he's a guy that's a physical freak beyond belief. Well, he might be picked in the latter part of the first round. Why is that? Because the NFL scouts have decided safety is not nearly as valuable position as, say, shutdown corner, defensive end, left tackle, quarterback, go-to wideout. So it's hard for me to say that a safety is the second most valuable player he might be the best pure athlete, but I would keep going down the list of premier positions like quarterback, like defensive end, like left tackle like wide receiver before I go right to Caleb Downs number 2. So I would push back a little bit on that maybe just based on the position, but I would certainly agree on number 1.
How about Cade Klubnik is the top?
You froze a little bit there. You're saying Cade Klubnik?
Cade Klubnik is the top quarterback, and we'll make that number 4. By the way.
Yeah. I'm one of those. I like Cade Klubnik. I don't love him based on now. He turned a major corner last year, and he's got a chance to turn another one this year. But I'm not sure if I've got him. You're asking if he's number 2 on the list?
Number 1 at quarterback.
Oh, ahead of Arch Manning? Ahead of Garrett Nussmeier? I mean, no, I'm not there. No, I would push back on that too.
Okay, number 5. Is it realistic for any SEC program to be elite? And when I say elite, I'm talking Nebraska in the 90s, the Hogs. I mean, is it realistic to be elite on the offensive line these days in the SEC? Or are schools needed to go out there and just say, all right, let's just don't, like a doctor, do no harm on the O-line, given the talent on the D-lines that all the SEC programs have?
Oh, well, good question. Well, I mean, I immediately think of the Will Campbell kid at LSU. And what did he allow? Like a sack his entire career going up against SEC defensive linemen?
Until this past year when he gave up
a couple.
Yeah, still good.
But still, like, he might be as safe a pick as there is in the upcoming draft. Like, he's going to go top 10. And so if you're one of those dudes, then you can be still really dominating. I think part of the problem was the rest of his O-line didn't hold up the end of the bargain, and he's out there sometimes fighting a much bigger fight than he needed to. But yeah, we've talked about this for years, JC, that the separator between the SEC and the other leagues in the country that are also very good, it's the D-line. The SEC puts out D-line like there's nobody's business. And you watch the upcoming NFL draft, and yeah, there'll be a guy or two from the Big Ten, and there might be a guy or two from the ACC, Big 12, but nothing stacks up to the SEC with that position, particularly not the interior, but the outside. So I think if you're a 5-star offensive lineman, if you want the best tape, you can go to the ACC and just pancake every Wake Forest, Duke, North Carolina, NC State defensive end you face. Or you can go in the SEC and you might be humbled a few times, but the scouts know, hey, he's going up against other first-round defensive ends on the regular, and so I've got respect for that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my take on that.
All right, good enough. That's another JC5 as scattered as it was.
As scattered as it was. All right, a final quick timeout, Phil. This is the international break signal. Hopefully that's going through, and we'll be back to wrap things up.
Low on energy? Struggling with inflammation and poor digestion? Try Encapsulate 6 Mushroom Blend and get back in the game. Our blend is specially formulated to promote overall wellness and maximize health benefits using 6 powerful functional mushrooms. Our science-forward approach offers the most potent and bioavailable mushroom supplement on the market, backed by third-party testing to ensure safety and efficacy. Order online on Amazon or encapsulateusa.com today to start your journey to better living. Enter promo code JCM for $10 off.
Mike here for our friends at MG&A Wealth. It's never a bad time to have someone on your side for all your financial needs. You need a trustworthy partner who has a true understanding of your situation in order to help you with smart and practical solutions. Since 1984, MG&A Wealth has helped their clients manage not just their wealth, but their lives. Today, as a nationally recognized wealth management firm, their team of pros remains dedicated to serving your best interests with an emphasis on personal attention and customized solutions. MG&A Wealth has clients all across the country, and they all get results. Don't put it off any longer. Call our friends at MG&A Wealth at 954-289-9000. That's 954-289-9000. MGAwealth.com is the website. They do more than manage wealth. They help manage lives.
We're passionate about making sure that the Nest and Wild mattress is the best it can be. Made well and made right. Right here in Tupelo, Mississippi. So how can we do all that? Work. Hard work. And that means something. The Nest and Wild mattress is a movement. It's a pride in where you come from and where you're going. So get comfortable. Because this movement is just beginning.
This is JC Morgan on the Chief Sports Network.
College football. Forever.
All right, here we are again, back.
Final.
Boy, this has been a cluster. I mean,
you know what? We just go through
I'm
the minefield. That's what we do.
By the way, those of you that are still hanging on with us, there'll be no Inside the Gamecocks to the show today. I was just informed that the storm knocked something out with the internet here.
Oh,
so it's going to be like that. So the Chief fans that are listening, no show today.
Okay.
And no coffee in the morning because it's going to be Saturday before I can get my boost back up, Michael. So,
yeah, I understand. A lot of weather issues.
Michael, I just sounded like Kit from Knight Rider.
Yeah.
Boost back up, Michael.
Or my mom when I'm in trouble. One of the two, which was quite frequent back in the day.
I do that, Michael.
Yeah, exactly.
I love Knight Rider.
Just felt like I was in detention. Yeah, Knight Rider. Very underrated show back. I mean, if you were a kid, a talking car, that's all you needed. And the Hoff, before he was eating donuts around babies and vomiting all over the place on camera.
Yeah, that was my favorite. Oh, two quick things on that. Number one, I was in Vegas and saw David Hasselhoff in the Producers in a musical version of stage version of the Producers at Paris, and then the next 2 weeks later, he's on the floor and recognized the carpet, eating a cheeseburger and crying.
Yes.
And then the next time I went to Vegas, he wasn't in the Producers anymore. Second, Knight Rider was my favorite show as a kid. Like, dude, I was obsessed with Knight Rider because I loved the car. I always wanted a Trans Am. But what threw me off was the guy that did the voice for Knight Rider also was in St. Elsewhere.
Oh, that was the same guy?
Yeah, and so I was like in the other room and my parents were watching St. Elsewhere and I heard the voice. I was like, is Knight Rider on? Get in the other. No, shut up. We're trying to watch this. So
it's kind of fun. There's a thing on Instagram that I follow. It's called like Classic TV or something.
Oh, yes.
And it's this guy that just rolls up. You see him and he says, if you were watching NBC back in 1989, here was the lineup. And it goes through the whole promo of what they were running, 8, 8:30, 9, 9:30. And it's just hilarious to see some of the shows that we used to watch as kids. Some of the shows where you look at it and you go, this actually got greenlit. A guy in a talking car, a guy who turns green when he gets angry. It just random, a guy pretending to be gay in order to live with two attractive females in an apartment in San Diego. These are all things that today would never, ever get shown the light of day on national TV. But back then, they did it.
It was creative, though. I mean, they took simple, wacky premises and made. I mean, the A Team was kind of a little weird. Like, what if
weird?
What if we Soldiers of Fortune? Can we get Mr. T to play B.A. Baracus? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, that was, and then St. Elsewhere, of course, was where Denzel Washington got his start.
And Howie Mandel.
It was the first one of the first hospital dramas, right? That wasn't a soap opera.
Right, which is one of the few things that actually sells anymore. I don't watch it, but every female got into
Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy with Patrick Dempsey, who went from the dorky kid on Can't Buy Me Love, Dimer, to like the heartthrob that every unhappy housewife dreams about.
McDreamy,
yeah.
Exactly. They killed him off because he got, after he did Sweet Home Alabama with Reese, he thought he was going to be a superstar, and then didn't work out.
They killed him off on that show. Is that show still on the air? Do people still watch?
I think it is. I think Grey's Anatomy. I'm not positive it is, but it's. We're going on about many years on Grey's Anatomy. So I know it's all over the streaming and stuff. Most of them. So.
Gee whiz. Okay. Again, we are JC and Morgan, presented in part by Nest and Wild Mattress, the most comfortable mattress on the planet. 5 layers, 12-inch performance hybrid, firm edges, high-density stratus layer, high airflow, fast response layer, heavy coil touch cover handles. I don't know what all that means. I can just tell you when you sleep on it, it's really damn comfortable. And that's all you probably care about as well. Go to nestandwild.com. and pick your mattress out, and it's delivered to your door within days. Put it out of a box, boom, done, problem solved. Our problems have been solved with our thanks to Tom Luginbill, who was terrific as always. And JC, give us an update. So we are now on a different YouTube page, correct? Or we're combining YouTube?
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, we're on the normal YouTube page, and we will be, but we do have. If this makes sense, a new YouTube page, and we'll start double streaming pretty soon. But if you go to youtube.com/@collegefootballforeverchief, that's our new. So it's free to subscribe. Just hit that like button. Already several of you have. That's going to kind of be a newish college football hub. It'll be our show and some other good stuff, college football related, just general broadly college football related. Outside of the state of South Carolina, because right now our YouTube feed goes to a channel that's really state of South Carolina focused. So we're moving our national stuff out to a new greener pastures, right?
Oh, good.
And probably moving some high school sports in, with Chief Sports South Carolina. We'll still be on that channel. So don't worry, we'll be there. But we're going to have a new home base. So our tentacles will kind of reach back to where we're at right now. So that'll be good. Do you think that the people, I was trying to think of how they came up with the love boat. I was like, do you think like Gilligan's Island, they were like sitting around going, yeah, it'd be cool if we did like Gilligan, but how about a cruise that never ends now?
Yeah.
And we'll just throw guests in there. And they were like, is that it?
Well,
yeah.
I think the Gilligan's Island one, like a lot of shows in the 60s, a lot of people did a lot of drugs when they were writing. Good. Let's be honest.
Bro, I'll tell you, man.
Like, I got an idea, man. And there was a lot of that. The Love Boat was an Aaron Spelling deal. And that dude, although his daughter still can't act, that dude created, there was Norman Lear, all those great comedies from All in the Family to the Jeffersons to et cetera, et cetera. He had the golden touch. And then not my cup of tea, but Aaron Spelling did a lot of these 1-hour drama shows.
Yeah, dude.
And they all were gold mines. The one that I did watch, and I'm not embarrassed to say it, 90210. And if you're of a certain age, 90210 was like, you just watched it. People got together and watched it socially, teenagers and whatnot. And Spelling was behind that as well. So he knew that was the first like teenager 1-hour drama. And that was a gold mine.
I'm with you there. It's I was not in my youth I was kind of a rebel with certain things.
I can see you pulling off little Steve Sanders, like you remember the keg house and
absolutely
causing trouble, cheating on exams.
That's me.
Getting in trouble with the cops. Like I could see you doing a little Steve Sanders.
Yeah, I rebelled against 90210 and the New Kids on the Block. That's it.
Oh, I never got into New Kids on the Block. I drew the line at cheesy music.
Cheesy
show I might watch, but not cheesy music.
Thought Mark Wahlberg would be one of my favorite actors. Marky Mark from the Funky Bunch. I know he wasn't in New Kids, but his family was.
Donnie D's on the backup, drug free, so put the crack up.
Dude, God bless. Anyway, let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here on that note. I can't think of a better one to end on. Yeah. As JC mentioned, we're on every platform imaginable. I know a lot of you are kind of set in your ways with the audio version only on Spotify and Twitter and X. We'll do a better job in the future of actually giving out tweets in the middle of the show to help that audience as well. But you can always catch us, not necessarily live, but evergreen this time of year on all those platforms. And we look forward to having you on again next week, or having you aboard next week. We'll see what we do on the guest front that time. For our producer, Mad Dog, Phil Molinax, for JC Shurburtt, Mike Morgan saying so long. Thank you so much for joining us on another installment of JC and Morgan.